Hi there. Gambling Harm Awareness Week happens in Queensland every July, and this is an opportunity to raise awareness about gambling harm in the community. If you've clicked on the title of this video, it's likely you're thinking about your own gambling. Maybe you're thinking about stopping, maybe you're thinking about reducing, or maybe you're just curious and you're looking for a little bit more information. Whatever your level of gambling, there's a few things you can do to make changes if that's where you're at. However, if you're finding you want to make changes and you need a bit of assistance, I've also left some suggestions in the description below. There's a link there as well if you're curious about what your current level of gambling risk might be. Gambling in Australia has been normalised in our culture. It's very accessible, it's heavily marketed and promoted. Nearly 80% of Australians gamble in one form or another. On the other side of this, Australians have the biggest gambling losses per adult compared to other countries around the world. This equates to around $25 billion in gambling losses every year. So it's not surprising if gambling's in your life. The risk of gambling harm increases with the frequency. About 1 to 2% of the population go on to develop a serious gambling problem. But there are many more people that are gambling at lower or moderate rates that experience some aspect of gambling harm. And maybe that's where you're at. It could be that you're noticing that you're not enjoying your gambling so much, you're spending a bit more time, you're spending a bit more money. There's lots of things there that might indicate that, maybe this is something that you might make some changes. So perhaps you're thinking this could be time for a planned break. And if you're thinking and you'd like to stick with me, we can talk about some ways that you can decide, for one, if that's what you want to do. If you do, go on and make a decision, a goal about that, and ways that you can strengthen your resolve to get through to your goal, and whether it be reduce or stop gambling. So to start with, spend some time monitoring what's happening for you at the moment. Think about monitoring how much time, how much money, how often you're going gambling. Just by this alone, your gambling might change because you're becoming more aware of what's happening. Keep a private record. This is your private record. Just be curious about what's going on. You could use a small notepad and make some headings to remind you about what sort of details you might like to keep. And maybe the dates, the times, is it before work, after work? You could also look back at your financial statements, and that might give you the heads up about what proportion of your income you're spending on gambling at the moment. Other things you could jot down is a little bit more detail. Where do you gamble? Are you alone? Are you with others? Are you drinking at the time? Think about those sorts of details because it's going to help you be a lot clearer about what's going on for you. And understanding this pattern for your gambling can be a really powerful motivator for change. If you go on and you find that changing your gambling behaviours is a bit difficult, then by doing this log, you've already started to explore some of the things that might be keeping you stuck. Ultimately, the objective here is to monitoring is to look forward. You're deciding if you want to make a change, if that's going to be positive for your future. Our brains have this wonderful ability to reinforce and reward some of our behaviours. This is a mechanism that encourages further gambling. You're going to need more than intention and willpower if you want to make some changes. You're going to need some planning. You've made a start by thinking more about your gambling. You've monitored what your current gambling patterns are like, and perhaps this has helped you make a decision already. Or maybe you're still feeling a little undecided one way or the other. Doing a list of pros and cons can help with this. It's looking at the costs and benefits of gambling for you. This will help you be clear about making any changes to your gambling. So let's take a closer look now at how you can prepare this list for yourself. Here's an example of a pros and cons form. Start by filling out what's good about gambling. You might put things down like it gives you excitement, or something you enjoy with friends, or maybe it's an escape for you. Later on, this can give clues about what changes you could make when you are reducing or stopping gambling. For instance, if excitement or boredom are the reasons that keep you gambling, You might be able to find other activities that can fill these needs. Next, look at what's not so good for you about gambling. These are some of the reasons you might be making the change. Perhaps you've got debt, or perhaps you just want to save some money for some other goals. In the two areas below this, focus on what's ahead. If you keep gambling, what might life be like down the track? What does it look like in a few years' time? And what if you stop gambling or reduce? What could it look like then? Just use your imagination a little and write down whatever here feels right for you, because this is going to help you when you're making a decision one way or another. I hope you find that form helpful. It's something that you can keep adding to. You can refer back to it when motivation gets a little sticky. So where are you at? Maybe you're still undecided, and that's okay. You've already had an assessment of your gambling, done some self-monitoring, and done the pros and cons. So that in itself means you're a lot more aware, and we know that some self-awareness around gambling is protective for future gambling harm. Maybe you're at a point where you think, no, now it's time to make a bit of a change, and if that's what you want to do, the next thing I encourage you to do is make a goal and make sure it's achievable and it's pretty clear, and it's something that, is quite well defined. So, for instance, it may be that you want to reduce gambling. Perhaps you want to reduce to only $20 a week and for 1 hour a week. That's one example of a reduction goal. Or perhaps you want to cut out all gambling for the month of July or for the next 12 months. You might have some saving goal that you want to put in place for something else, and you don't think gambling is going to suit that. So that's an example of why you might cut it out for 12 months or a period of time. So be clear too, is it all kinds of gambling or is it just one form? Well, you get the idea. Really define what you want to do here, and then set the date. So far, you've assessed your gambling, you've made a goal to change your gambling behaviour, and you've set a date to begin. In your preparation, think about who can support you to reach your goal. Telling others who respect your decision can help you feel more accountable and more positive about succeeding. And this could be family, friends, partner. It's possible, though, that not everybody's going to be supportive of your choice to make a change, and this could be a hurdle. Maybe you gamble with friends or colleagues, family members even, who want you to keep gambling with them. So think about how you would decline an invite to gamble when it's offered. Even better, practice what you would say. Work out the situations you might need to avoid, and which ones to prepare for. This is really particularly helpful at the start of changing a behaviour or a habit. Maybe there's somebody else who will take up this challenge with you to make a change to their gambling. If you don't want to approach someone close, you could also try, community group, a coach, a counsellor for additional support. Or you could try an online mobile phone app like the 100-Day Challenge. There's a few different support options available. If you're underway with your plan to reduce or stop gambling, work out where and when you're most likely to be vulnerable and plan alternatives. Have a list of possibilities ready to go. Meet friends in places where there's no gambling. You're looking for ways to reduce thinking about gambling. If you think you might be tempted, don't carry your credit card or limit your access to money. If you feel an urge to gamble, imagine you're surfing a wave. Really, the urge might start big, but if you can delay, distract, deep breathe, or deter your thinking long enough, it's going to roll into nothing. You get better at this with practice, and the urges get less the longer you don't gamble or you have reduced your gambling down. So sometimes, despite best intentions, you might find you lapse from your goal. It can be tricky making these changes. So go back some steps, look over your pros and cons, and get back on track as soon as possible. Often your resolve can be even stronger after a lapse. All is not lost. You just need to adjust your strategies. Rewards positively reinforce your efforts to get to your goal. So what's going to work for you? Perhaps it's smaller rewards along the way. Whatever it is, make sure you factor this in your planning. Achieving a goal like this can have lots of benefits for your self-esteem as well. Today you've spent some time assessing your relationship with gambling and thinking about whether you need to make changes, and if so, how you'd go about doing that. I hope it's been helpful. Best wishes. Thanks for listening.